Absolute value. This is kind of a warm-up activity, so you have your number line in front of you. Stop the tape and label all of those points quickly. So these are integers. Make sure you label them on the appropriate side of 0. Here are my answers. Hopefully they match up with yours. Feel free to stop if you need to match those up. So today we're using those integers in that number line. We're moving on to absolute value. So here we go. Absolute value. Absolute value. Absolute value measures the distance a number is from 0. So make sure you have that down. Distance from 0. Not a difficult concept, but it is a very important one. So distance from 0. Another word that goes right along with absolute value. I guess we'll get to that in a minute. If you look at these two words down here, these two numbers I should say, you have an 8 and you have a -8. Look at these lines on the outside. So anytime you see these lines here, that tells you that we're finding the absolute value. So we're finding how far away from 0 8 is. Well, positive 8 is 8 places from 0. So positive 8 would be here. That's 8 places to 0. Okay, well, take a look at -8. -8 would be up here. That is still 8 places to get to 0. So if you see these absolute value markers on the outside of a number, that asks you how far away from 0 is this number, the distance from 0. So each of these are 8 places from 0. So if you see this, this is asking you to, it's saying, tell me how far from 0 are these numbers. They are both positive 8 places from 0. So magnitude is very similar to a synonym for absolute value. It's asking you what is the value of these numbers. So the magnitude of these numbers is 8 because look, a number's distance from 0, it's really saying the same thing. So if I said to you what is the magnitude of this -8 with the absolute value markers on the outside, I'm asking you how far from 0 is it, you could tell me it's 8. If I said the absolute value of this same thing, it's telling me how far from 0, it's 8 places from 0. So think of absolute value and magnitude as being the same number, the same definition, and that is distance from 0. Distance from 0. So let's try some, see if you know what's what here. You're on to the next slide on your notes. So if we look at that first one, how far from 0 is -5? It is 5 places from 0. That's pretty basic. How far from 0 is 256? 256 places from 0. These are pretty easy. I mean, we're just asking how far away it is. What then can you tell me about that? What conclusion can you draw about the magnitude of the absolute value? What can you tell me happens every time you see the absolute value? Stop the tape and write down what you think that is. You have a little box over here to the right. Please do that. I'm telling you that the magnitude will always be positive. The absolute value, when you see one of these dudes, it's telling you the answer is going to be positive. Okay, why? Because we're just asking how far away from 0 is it? This, even though we're at the 5, it's still 5 places to get to 0. Positive 5 places. This, even though it's 256, which is way over here somewhere, how far is it to get to here? That's all we're measuring, 256 places. So let's try one. I see that there's absolute value markers around the -5, so I'm going to say that that's 5 places from 0. Absolute value markers around the -8, I'm going to say that's 8 places from 0. If we don't know 5 plus 8, we better go back to first grade. 5 plus 8 is 13. So if I add these absolute values, I get 13. Try number 4 on your own. Stop the film here if you need to. Okay, here we go. How far from 0 is this? It is 32 places. This one is 21 places. Subtract the 2. 11 is your answer. If you got that right, congratulate yourself. If you didn't, feel free to go backwards, rewind the tape a little bit, and check what we did. Okay. So I'd like you to stop it again and answer these questions. Okay, if we take a look at these, there's no absolute values. We're just asking you which one is larger, greater, warmer, however you want to think of it. -5 is closer to 0 than -6. That's how I think of it. If they're both negative, which one is closer to 0? -5 is closer to 0, meaning it's a little bit warmer. It's not much, but a little bit. Take a look at these two guys. A positive number is always greater than a negative number. Don't get those mixed up. Little curveball down here. Let's see if you can handle this one. -10 is actually 10 places from 0, so 10 is greater than 9. The value, the magnitude of this is 10, which is larger than 9. And then if we go here, the magnitude of -32 is 32. Magnitude of the absolute value of -23 is 23. 32 then is the larger. If you got them, pat yourself on the back. If you didn't, rewind and listen to how come. And one last thing, this is on the back of your paper. What values can m have to make it true, to make this equation true? Well, the absolute value of m. Obviously, you're saying, well, m is 13, so it's got to be 13. What about -13? If I put -13, if I substituted that in for the m, would that still give me 13? It would. So understand that if a number has these brackets around it, that it can be positive or negative. Very important. We sometimes, if we want to combine this, a positive 13 and a -13, we write plus or minus 13. That's what this looks like. Something you'll do in high school, but not bad to get used to it right now. Okay, as these numbers are floating in here, stop the tape and tell me if you think these two are equivalent. This is a little trickier, so stop it and take a look. So how far from 0 is 532? It's 532 places. But look at the negatives on the outside. So the negative just comes along with us here. So look at this side. How far from 0 is -532? It's 532 places, so that's positive. But look, this negative sign on the outside comes along with it. But you said they're never going to be negative. Well, I didn't say that. I said absolute values are always positive. The inside piece is positive. The inside piece is positive. If there's a negative on the outside, well, we got to bring that with us. We haven't used it yet. So are these equivalent? Yes, of course they are. So a little more to it. Please rewind and check what's needed. That is absolute value.